never forgetting where we came from.
You're born, you grow up spending the first third of your life learning to live in a society that barely acknowledges your existence. You might marry, have children, maybe even grandchildren, then you die, escaping the cycle of suffering only to discover that death is merely the gateway to being reborn and fed to your jailers once again. The process repeats, an eternal loop enforced by soul recycling machines, often called soul cubes, hidden within the moon and scattered across our world. Speaking of the moon, you've probably noticed how odd it is, uniquely large relative to Earth, locked in a perfectly circular orbit with one face eternally turned toward us, reverberating like a bell when struck, suggesting vast hollow caverns or even machinery within. In 1969, Apollo seismic experiments recorded the moon ringing for over an hour after a crash landing. Soviet scientists soon proposed the moon might be an artificial spacecraft, its rigid shell preventing deep crater formation, its interior purpose-built. More recently, images from the Chinese lunar rover Yutu-2 reportedly captured a cube-shaped mystery hut near Von Karman crater, a structure officially labeled Mystery Hut by CNSA, hinting at installations of alien origin. These aren't the only anomalies. Ancient Sumerian texts introduce us to the Anunnaki, 7 deities who decreed human fate. Some now believe these gods were extraterrestrials from the 12th planet, Nibiru, who spliced their DNA with early hominids to create a slave species to mine gold for their dying world. Zulu legends tell of reptilian brothers Wawani and Mpanku, scaly-skinned aliens who rolled a hollow dragon's egg across the sky to form our moon as a monitoring station. Greek historians such as Plutarch and poets like Ovid spoke of a pre-lunar Arcadian people, implying that at one time, the moon did not grace our sky. The most infamous modern champion of these ideas is David Icke, who argues that shape-shifting reptilian humanoids, Archons, Enki, and Lil, live among us, invisible to our brains thanks to advanced holographic and perception warping technology beamed from the moon. They infiltrate governments, media conglomerates, banks, all to keep humanity trapped in fear and negativity, generating the emotional energy by which they subsist. A galactic federation enforces a frequency embargo around Earth, preventing us from accessing higher dimensions of consciousness that would expose our prison and render us free. Other thinkers extend the notion of extraterrestrial intervention to our very origins. Dr. Ellis Silver suggests that humans evolved elsewhere and were transported here 60,000 to 200,000 years ago, stranded on a harsh world for which we are ill-suited, hence our sunburns, our back problems, our chronic illnesses. Genetic studies have now identified ghost DNA from interbreeding with an unknown archaic human species some 50,000 years ago, a fact that intriguingly aligns with Silver's timeline. But remember, as Nagaru, the musings of Caucasus scientists and conspiracy theorists don't apply to us. We were here long before others by millions of years, even the Anunnaki. Everyone else is a guest, an invader, some might even say an infestation. Yes, our genes have been mixed with outsiders, terrestrial, extraterrestrial and subterranean, but we are the direct descendants of those fully melanated, hairless, hermaphroditic solar sapiens who emerged from the waters onto land, who themselves spent eons evolving in the seas when Earth was called Tiamat. This planet is ours, none other. Philosophers and theologians have long debated the soul's existence. Greek thinkers like Plato posited an immortal essence. In the early 20th century, Dr. Duncan McDougall measured a fleeting 21-gram weight loss at death, attributing it to the departing soul, though his methods were flawed. Modern neuroscience locates consciousness within neuronal patterns, yet quantum mystical theories propose that our spirit interacts with the body via non-local entanglement, perhaps slipping into another dimension upon death. Near-death experiences, whether cerebral hallucinations under duress or genuine glimpses of an afterlife, continue to fuel the debate. And through it all, the moon remains our most familiar yet most baffling companion in the night sky, uniquely sized and placed to cast perfect total solar eclipses, alarmingly resonant, orbitally precise, and oddly hollow sounding. With every full moon, reports of crime, car accidents, and emotional upheaval spike, the classic lunar effect leading some to wonder whether these events are mere coincidence or design triggers, catalyzing the negative emotions our alien jailers crave. So what can you do? If negative emotions feed your captors and positive ones starve them, then the power to break the cycle may lie in your hands. Choose kindness over hatred, acceptance over judgment, gratitude over envy, joy over despair. Each act of love and compassion is a rebellion against your cosmic captors, a refusal to serve as mere livestock in their grand, millennia-spanning experiment. The next time you gaze at that odd, glowing orb in the sky, remember, you are not merely its subject, you are its master. The choice, as always, is yours. Despite having been humanity's constant companion through all recorded time, the moon remains an enigma. Science still can't fully explain its origin, its peculiar orbit, its precise distance, its unusual density, composition, or internal structure. Various theories, from the capture hypothesis, in which a wandering body was snagged by Earth's gravity, to the accretion model, in which Earth and Moon coalesced together from the same dust cloud, the fission idea, in which Earth spun off a piece that became the Moon, and the giant impact scenario, in which a Mars-sized body collided with Earth, each solve some puzzles but leave glaring gaps. More recently, researchers have proposed that a rapidly spinning synestia, a vaporized toroidal mass, birthed the Moon at its edge, but that too feels incomplete. Moon rocks collected during the Apollo missions only deepen the mystery. Surface soils on the Moon are unnaturally older than subsurface rocks, an inversion of Earth's geology that would require active mining to replicate. The Moon's interior also seems far less dense than expected, about 1/4 Earth's size but only 1% its density, suggesting it might be hollow. When Apollo 12 and 13 deliberately crashed ascent stages into the lunar surface, seismometers recorded reverberations lasting 1 to 3 hours and penetrating some 20 miles deep, events more akin to striking a bell than a terrestrial body where vibrations die out in minutes as they move into denser material. Impact craters of vastly different widths share nearly identical depths, as if a metallic shell lies just beneath the regolith, preventing penetration beyond a certain point. Lunar dust, with a chemical signature distinct from the surrounding rock, and the discovery of non-naturally occurring isotopes like uranium-236 and neptunium-237 further suggest artificial reinforcement. Titanium, chromium, and zirconium abound where on Earth they are rare and prized for their strength and corrosion resistance. The Moon's orbital peculiarities add to the intrigue, a near-perfectly circular path unseen elsewhere, a size-to-distance ratio that mirrors the Sun so precisely as to allow total solar eclipses, and an unusually close proximity. No other planetary satellite in our or any observed extrasolar system approaches 1/4 its primary's diameter. Ancient cultures worldwide seem to echo these oddities. Greek and Roman writers of the 5th century BC spoke of a sky before the Moon's arrival. Bolivian Tiwanaku legends date the Moon's appearance to 11,500 to 13,000 years ago, coinciding with the Younger Dryas, a period marked by floods and upheaval in myth and geology. Zulu oral history preserves a tale of reptilian intelligences inhabiting a hollow moon, placed in orbit by divine brothers. Sumerian stories of the Anunnaki, Enki, and Enlil mirror these progenitors. Those same Zulu myths foresaw the Moon's role in stabilizing Earth's tilt and tides, concepts science only confirmed centuries later. Across continents, flood legends synchronize with Younger Dryas evidence for a global deluge triggered by a collapse of a water vapor canopy, just as the Zulu recount. Transient lunar phenomena, mists, glowing lights, boulder tracks that ascend inclines, and mysterious flashes recorded over centuries, further hint at active processes on a supposedly dead, atmosphere-less world. A 1971 vapor cloud blanketed some 100 square miles for 14 hours, glowing mists in Plato Crater, blue glows in Aristarchus, the Blue Gem, and hundreds of unexplained light flashes between 1540 and 1967 suggest occasional atmospherics or even fusion-like reactors. Photographs taken by astronomers, probes, and allegedly even astronauts themselves depict towers, pyramids, and base-like structures casting distinct shadows, images later scrubbed from NASA archives according to an Air Force technician who saw them. Why haven't we returned to the Moon? Apollo 11 astronauts seemed unsettled in their post-mission press conference, their faces tense rather than triumphant. Could they, like ancient storytellers, have glimpsed something that compels silence? Today, science offers partial explanations. The density inversion might result from the mantle-rich debris that formed the Moon. Prolonged seismic ringing could stem from dry, fractured rock, and near-perfect eclipses are only approximate and growing less exact as the Moon recedes by about 1.5 inches each year. Yet these rationales feel patched and provisional, especially when the hollow moon spacecraft hypothesis enjoys support from reputable scientists who find conventional models increasingly contrived. Antarctica has long been a source of high strangeness. Rumors of UFOs and hidden alien bases date back to the 1930s, when Hitler allegedly coveted its vast, frozen expanse for secret outposts. In 1946, Operation Highjump arrived with a heavily armed U.S. Navy fleet supposedly to extend American sovereignty over the continent. Planned as a 6-month mission, it lasted barely 6 weeks, officially curtailed by poor weather, but eyewitnesses claimed that aggressive, disc-shaped craft chased the fleet away. Fast forward to 1985. A medevac helicopter was forced to detour around a no-fly zone near the South Pole and its crew spotted a gigantic hole in the ice, nearly the size of a football field. When questioned back at base, they were not debriefed by the Navy but by men in suits. DC look, one crewman quipped. In the 1990s Navy flight crews began reporting silver discs zipping impossibly fast over mountain peaks. They were sternly ordered never to speak of it. Then in 2003 a Navy SEAL on a covert mission discovered an ancient structure protruding through the ice. Its material was neither metal nor stone, warm to the touch, and bore a massive door leading into the ice. Meanwhile, scientists launching weather balloons in 2018 to study cosmic rays found themselves puzzled. The rays were emanating not from space, but from 2 miles beneath the ice. Witnesses have claimed they've seen things, heard things, and felt things that simply shouldn't exist in Antarctica, yet do. Whatever lies beneath those miles of ice is being kept from public view, but one thing is certain: something very strange, and very important, is going on at the bottom of the world. In November 1995, a U.S. Navy C-130 crew, including an engineer known only as Brian, flew low circles around Marie Byrd Land, where 15 National Science Foundation researchers had set up camp. Protocol called for daily check-ins, which hadn't come through for days. With clear weather and good visibility, the crew could see huts, fuel tanks, and snowmobiles, but nobody emerged to wave. On landing, they found the camp intact, supplies for a month, no footprints, no struggle. The radio worked, there were no bodies, no signs of life. After a final search, they returned to McMurdo believing the worst: the scientists were dead. Then, over a week later, those same scientists radioed McMurdo in a panic, wanted out immediately. When the C-130 returned, the researchers boarded in complete silence, refusing food or explanation. Back at McMurdo, men in suits escorted the equipment to a guarded storage facility. The gear would eventually be flown to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, headquarters of Project Blue Book. Brian and his crew were ordered never to speak of it again. Brian's encounter was far from isolated. In the early 2000s, a Navy SEAL team codenamed Spartan 1 was sent to the Beardmore Glacier to extract a lone scientist, and instead discovered a black octagonal structure jutting 18 feet above the ice, its door 23 feet high and 18 feet thick. He and his team entered to find a 400,000 square foot chamber, illuminated by soft green walls carved with undecipherable glyphs. Ramps led deeper into a complex now known to span over 2.7 million square feet, accessible today only by submarine. Lower levels remain occupied, but not by humans. Other anomalies abound. A 300-foot wide hole near a supposed air sampling station, complete with tracks leading inside, was spotted by Brian decades ago. Crews who flew overhead since then have been warned away and gagged. Suspicious Google Earth images show cave entrances, stairways carved into ice, even hints of machinery, but when attention turns to them, they vanish or downgrades blur the detail. In 2002, a TV crew for Atlantis TV disappeared while filming alleged ruins 2 miles beneath the ice. Navy rescuers recovered videotape of spectacular ruins and then confiscated it, silencing the crew and burying their footage. Satellite photos have teased pyramid-like forms, some mere rock outcrops, but others with precise geometry aligning perfectly with the cardinal directions. One 1.2-mile-wide pyramid could be the oldest on Earth, echoing Tesla's experiments in wireless energy and the Templars' legends of energy-storing arcs. Geologists insist these are natural features, but proponents of crustal displacement point to 12,000-year-old maps, like those by Piri Reis and Orontius Phineas, that depict an ice-free Antarctica with interior mountain ranges that match today's topography. Harvard historian Charles Hapgood argued that a sudden pole shift hurled the continent into its current frigid latitudes, burying an Atlantean-style civilization under miles of ice in a cataclysmic event perhaps triggered by an asteroid impact around 12,800 years ago. Could all this be true? Antarctica remains one of the most remote, regulated places on Earth, off-limits to private explorers under the 1959 Antarctic Treaty. Surface activity is monitored to protect the ecosystem, but critics say it conveniently hides whatever lies beneath. Scientists point to vast subglacial caverns warmed by geothermal heat, some larger than Manhattan Island, that could indeed harbor life, perhaps even intelligent. As global temperatures rise, melting ice may one day reveal what's been hidden for millennia. Now, though home to fewer than 3,000 residents, Dulce boasts the highest rate of UFO sightings per capita in the world, reports of strange lights and airborne objects stretching back thousands of years. Recent whispers tell of an underground complex carved beneath Archuleta Mesa, a facility so secret that no conclusive proof has ever surfaced, only the testimony of those who claim to have built it, worked within its walls, or even been dragged inside at gunpoint. In 1975, local ranchers' distress call brought Officer Gabe Valdez to a mutilated cow drained of every drop of blood, its organs surgically removed and scattered across scorched earth bearing tripod-like tracks. A viscous yellow residue resisted identification. 3 days later, with the carcass startlingly unspoiled and even missing an ear, Valdez sought the expertise of Dr. Howard Burgess from Sandia National Laboratories. Radiation readings proved twice normal, and over the following months the same grisly fate visited 17 more animals, each operation surgical, each body bereft of lymph nodes, organs, and clotting blood. Investigators suffered headaches and nausea. At night, silent orange lights drifted overhead. By day, black helicopters prowled the skies. In just a few years, some 8,000 animal mutilations would be reported across the region. Yet the FBI, after reviewing the evidence, declared the deaths consistent with predator action and closed the case, denying any federal interest. Meanwhile, Paul Benwitz, a brilliant physicist turned entrepreneur just outside Kirtland Air Force Base, was intercepting unexplained radio transmissions and filming otherworldly lights. Befriending Officer Valdez, Paul amassed data on cattle mutilations, UFO landings, and alleged abductions. In 1980, the terrifying Myrna Hansen case crossed Valdez's desk. Under hypnosis, Hansen recounted how she and her son watched a cow levitate into a nearby craft before losing hours of memory. When she remembered being examined by gray-skinned, silent beings, she was taken under X-ray to Lovelace Medical Center, where doctors discovered a tiny implant at the nape of her neck, exactly where she'd said it would be, and a faint scar to match. As Paul dutifully relayed his findings to the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, Agent Richard Doty arrived on the scene. Over the years, more witnesses, military engineers, photographers, even special ops personnel, would surface, claiming deep access to alien operations beneath Dulce, but their stories would blur fact and fiction in a haze of misinformation, some of it allegedly seeded by Doty himself. The most sensational claims emerged in 1995, when engineer Phil Schneider spoke at the Preparedness Expo. Schneider said that in 1979, while drilling exploratory shafts under Archuleta Mesa for Morrison-Knudsen, his crew punched through into an ancient alien stronghold. Armed U.S. soldiers and Green Berets, he said, were stationed there. When he descended in a lift, he confronted 7-foot-tall gray aliens. Exchanging fire, he killed one but was critically wounded by a plasma weapon that cost him 2 fingers, part of his hand, and unleashed cancer in his body. He alleged a fierce battle ensued, 66 men died, and that, fearing catastrophic conflict, the U.S. government struck a secret pact with the aliens, in exchange for advanced technologies, stealth alloys, space-manufactured metals, even earthquake-inducing devices blamed for tremors in San Francisco and Kobe. Humans would offer their own species for experimentation. According to Schneider, multiple treaties dating back to 1944 permitted alien abductions, organ harvesting, and genetic splicing, all overseen by the shadowy Majestic 12 Committee. Within Dulce's labyrinthine levels, security, staff housing, laboratories, mind control suites, genetic engineering vats, even zoo enclosures, aliens worked alongside coerced human labor, while reptilian Draco overseers plotted Earth's subjugation. Schneider warned of an alien caste system, of human hybrids on display, and of an impending purge of 90% of humanity to clear the way for a new world order. He claimed to know of 131 secret U.S. bases, 1,477 worldwide, all linked by Mach 2 maglev trains, and insisted that the Pentagon's black budget ran unchecked, trillions unaccounted for under the guise of standard appropriations. But Schneider's dramatic revelations unraveled under scrutiny. He misnamed military units, mixed up protocols, and fabricated connections. His father, he claimed, was a Nazi U-boat captain, yet records show him as a U.S. Navy medical officer. His injuries and cancer, locally attested to, may have a less exotic origin. In early 1996, Schneider died under mysterious circumstances. His family denounced the official suicide ruling, pointing to a strangulation marked by curious anomalies and missing evidence. Beyond Schneider, figures like military photographer Thomas Costello, whose Dulce papers and haunting photos of humans in pods later proved to be lifted from sci-fi films, and conspiracy luminary John Lear, citing Rendlesham Forest, Roswell, Majestic 12, and more, added layers to the mythos. Yet many of these sources trace back to a single architect, Tau Levesque, whose 1970s newsletters recycled pulp fiction tales of subterranean worlds. Air Force disinformation campaigns, most notably by Agent Doty, further muddied the waters, mingling truth, half-truth, and outright fantasy.